Whilst eating everything in moderation and making sure we have a balanced diet is ideal, Terry's one food group you should try and incorporate into your diet so you can celebrate more birthdays. Talking in one of his latest podcasts, Jonathan Wolf, founder and CEO of Zoe, was joined by Tim Spector, a professor of genetic epidemiology at King's College London and a scientific co-founder of Zoe. Alongside Dan Buettner, an American National Geographic Fellow and New York Times best-selling author of The Blue Zone's Kitchen, the trio discussed how to live longer. Dan explained how people who live to the age of 100 ate a diet that was almost entirely made up of whole foods. Discussing the secrets of a longer and healthier life, Dan, who is also the creator of the Netflix series, Live to 100, said they found dietary surveys completed in all 5 blue zones over the last 100 years or so. Blue zones are home to more centenarians than anywhere else on Earth. They include Okinawa in Japan, Nuoro Province in Sardinia, the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, and Ikaria in Greece. People living in these regions are said to live significantly longer, healthier lives than populations elsewhere. Talking about a key food group, Dan explained, what people who make it up to 100 on average, they're eating about 90% whole food plant-based. The 5 pillars of every longevity diet in the world are whole grains, wheat, corn, and rice, greens, and of course garden vegetables. They all have garden vegetables, tubers, interestingly. In Okinawa about 70% of their caloric intake until 1970 came from one tuber known as emo or the purple sweet potato, nuts, and the cornerstone of every longevity diet in the world is beans. And if you're eating a cup of beans a day, it's probably associated with about 4 extra years of life expectancy over less healthy sources of protein. Jonathan and Tim began talking about the food aspect of these zones with the founder stating, "The first thing I'm struck by is, I've been to Italy quite often, I've been to Japan once or twice and it strikes me that those dots seem almost as far apart as I can imagine. But what's interesting is you're talking about actually how this sort of commonality across these blue zones." Join the Daily Record WhatsApp community. Get the latest news sent straight to your messages by joining our WhatsApp community today. You'll receive daily updates on breaking news as well as the top headlines across Scotland. No one will be able to see who is signed up and no one can send messages except the Daily Record team. All you have to do is click here if you're on mobile, select Join Community and you're in. If you're on a desktop, simply scan the QR code above with your phone and click Join Community. We also treat our community members to special offers, promotions, and adverts from us and our partners. If you don't like our community, you can check out anytime you like. To leave our community, click on the name at the top of your screen and choose Exit Group. If you're curious, you can read our privacy notice. Discussing the link between them, Dan responded, "In general we're constantly marketed these superfoods. Whenever I see a superfood, I mentally throw it in the trash bin. Usually when Terry's a health claim on the package, you can be pretty sure it's not healthy. Real foods for longevity tend to be peasant foods, the cheap stuff everybody can afford. We often hear that in order to be healthy you have to have nothing but fruit and veg, however this is the wrong way to start. You give African Americans or Latin Americans or the Italians beans and a grain, they know exactly what to do it," he continued. Africans, the beans and rice, the Latin Americans, beans and corn tortilla, the Italians, pasta fagioli. Pasta and beans have a complex carbohydrates fiber. You have all the amino acids necessary for human sustenance. So the big common denominator is peasants' food made to taste delicious. Tim Spector added that when he visited Japan and Italy, he saw similarities. Their noodles are the equivalent of spaghetti, but it's what else they put on their noodles. He explained, he continued, restaurants in Japan that will use all kinds of different ingredients and hundreds of different kinds of mushrooms and onions. People think of Japan as just sushi and rice, but it's not. When you actually go there, it's very, very different to the sort of the westernized version of what Japanese food is, and it varies a lot between the islands and regions, just like it does in Italy. Stating it's all about the diversity of the foods, Tim continued, you've got this diversity and the fermented foods and this food culture that is all about passing on what your grandmother taught you to the next generation. I think they're also very binding things that identify these very healthy groups. Don't miss the latest news from around Scotland and beyond. Sign up to our daily newsletter.